Hey everybody, welcome back to Talking Points. I'm Fred Willis, your gracious host, and I have a very special guest with me today. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but listen, let me tell you, I'm so thrilled. I've been reading through her book, and it's a fantastic read. It's not just for one audience. I don't think so anyway. She may tell us more that will give us insight into that, but I want you to help me welcome to the show, Taneshia Yerby. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking about your book, From Dreams to Drive, today. And I love the premise of the book. I love that it's going to be found among Christian retailers and among Christian books and things like that. But, you know, I've learned, we sing a song in church that say, you can't tell it like I can tell it. So I want to give you space and time to talk about this fantastic book, From Dreams to Drive.
Yeah, so I wrote this book for women or anyone really can take something away from it. But for those who have found themselves in this space where they are looking to tap more into the thing that God has called them to do,
Mhm.
whether that's like pursuing another career or stepping into ministry or just something that's outside of their comfort zone, and they really are just looking for a roadmap of something tangible, a way that they can actually just go from start to finish and really just go from having it as a dream, but to putting it into action.
Hmm. Okay, well, I like that, and I think many books kind of speak to that. But there's something unique about your book that I want to give you space and time to talk about and tell us why your book is unique with that perspective and what stands out about it.
Yeah, I would say it's unique because it is a lot of my own personal stories in there
Mm.
as someone who has had to make a complete shift from just being in the world of, climbing the corporate ladder to
Mhm.
tapping more into my gifts. So I would say that it is unique in that aspect, that it is, again, my personal stories, talking about the times where I felt embarrassed to try something new, or the times where I was confused of, which idea do I pursue first? Just being a multi passionate person and trying to decide, like, is this a God thing or is this a me thing? So really just, again, personal stories from my own experience of how I got from start to where I am now.
You know, I love that so much because we have all been there. And as you were talking, I was hearing this thought that maybe trying something new is actually believing God. Maybe that's
Yes.
the new thing some of us need to try, especially in times like these, times that we're living in that are so challenging, that kind of gnaw away at some of our reliance on external things, the government systems we have here and there. That as those things are being kind of done away with, we have a new focus, which is really trusting God with what He says. But how did you reach a point, though? You said a little bit of it in your answer. How did you reach the point to where you knew that it was time to press on into what God had placed in you?
Yeah. So originally, I had no idea, again, what God wanted me to do. And
Hmm.
so I found myself trying a bunch of different things. I was
Oh.
just trying anything to, get into entrepreneurship. So I had a thrifted mobile boutique. I did jewelry for a little bit. I feel like I did so many things. And eventually I got to this place where I was like, you know what? None of this is working. And so that's when I had my come to Jesus moment where I was like, okay, there's God, you've given me these gifts, you've given me the talents, but I need to know how I'm supposed to be using them. And so, again, once I got to that place and I had that conversation with God, He really just came back and said, I just want your voice. And
Mm.
that was so drastically different from what I had already been pursuing, which was, the clothing and the jewelry and all of those types of businesses. So this was a drastic jump, and so I knew that this was not something that was in my own doing, because at the time, I was kind of shy. I still am a little bit of an introvert. So that's not necessarily something that I would have chose to do on my own. So that's exactly how I knew that it was something from God.
Now that's interesting because you're talking about trust. God says, "I want your voice," and that can be scary, especially when you are a preferred introvert. I'm one of those people. I prefer introversion. I prefer to kind of stay to myself. I prefer even sometimes to keep those stories that I know can bless somebody kind of to myself. Um, so reaching that point where God says, "I know, I just want your voice." I had to write that down. I wrote that down. I just want your voice. You have to trust God also to believe that your voice can empower somebody else to their own greatness or inspire them to their own greatness. Was there a battle with that, once you knew God has given rise to your voice and choosing to write this book, was there yet a battle with that going forward?
Yeah, I would say there was a little bit of battle there because, again, being an introvert, you're like, why would you choose me
Yeah.
to use my voice? Because I'm an introvert. I don't really use it that much.
Right.
But then also when he gave me that command, I want your voice. I want you to use your voice. He didn't really give me a whole lot of instruction after that. So I
Whoa.
kind of had to pick up the pieces and say, well, how does he want me to use my voice? And that's again how I just started taking action and what led me to where I am today. Because I
Mhm.
kind of had to like, you know what, God, I don't know exactly what you mean by this. I know you want me to use it, for women and just in encouraging them, but specifically how, and just again, showing up, putting one foot in front of the other and
Yeah.
just kind of pushing my way through it, even though it was uncomfortable. But again, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And so
Yeah.
again, that's what this entire devotional is about, is just putting yourself out there, taking action, and then partnering with God and meeting him halfway.
Whoa, I love that so much. See, that's why this book is great for anybody, because we have this battle just universally. There are people who don't want to use the voice, even though they know there's power there, even though they know there's power in the story. And you are right. The more you use it, the more accustomed you are, the more accustomed you become to using it, the more you understand your story. So let me ask you this. What was the most difficult chapter for you to write, or what was the most difficult portion of this devotional for you to write and share?
Hmm. The most difficult portion of it. I wouldn't say I'll say that writing the entire devotional had its challenges, and the reason, just for multiple reasons. So the
Hmm.
first reason I would say is that, again, using my voice and showing up in the online space, that's something that I've been doing for the last several years, but there's not really ever had to be like structure to it.
Hmm.
If you follow me on social media at CEO for Women, then you'll see that it's more like bite-sized content. And the same thing with my emails. I had a text community at one point. So it's really, it was quick to the point encouragement. But with this book, it was a little bit more challenging because it's like this, you've got to take your reader from start to finish
Yep.
pretty much. And so that was a challenge in itself of stretching my creative abilities and stretching just my belief in myself that, like, okay, listen, you can do this. It's different and it's something that's going to feel uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that you are not capable of doing it. And so I would say that was probably the most challenging thing, but I was able to work around that and be able to kind of set myself up for success just by reverse engineering things. So, hey,
Hmm.
if this is where we want the end goal, let's start from the beginning and try to figure out, how do we get there? Do we break this down into three parts? Do we break it down into two parts? So how do we work our way up there? And so that is how I was able to kind of get out of my head and just do the thing.
Whoa, and that's where a lot of us find ourselves, is trying to find the energy, find the inspiration to just go ahead and get going. That's why I love this book. I'm talking to Taneshia Yerby about her forthcoming book, From Dreams to Drive. It's a devotional. It's going to get you going. It's going to get you literally from dreaming about it to give you and inspire the drive to do it, which so many of us need that. So many of us know we need that. I want to ask you this. One of your talking points deals with this changing landscape, this scope that we're in. So much is changing. You began talking about your own story and shifting. How would you encourage someone? I know it's in the book, so I just want to go ahead and dive into this. How are you encouraging us to? We use that word pivot. That was a talking point. That was a major word in our talking for a few years. There are a lot of people experiencing the need for a pivot, but they don't know how to. Talk about how this devotional. See, it's a devotional. It's the word. It's word back, completely word back. Talk about how you're using your personal stories and the power of the word to help people make that pivot.
Yeah, so to make the pivot, I think the longer you sit and wait, the easier it is to talk yourself out of it.
Mm,
So you really just have to get out of your head. I know I've said that already, but you really do.
yes.
You have to get out of your head and just step out and do the thing. And I also think that you have to be okay with constant change throughout the process.
Mm,
So how God starts you out today may not be what your assignment's going to be 5 years from now. So
mm,
you have to get in a habit of knowing that, yes, this is going to be uncomfortable, but once I get through this, there's going to be something else that's uncomfortable. And you really just have to be willing to step out. I talk about this in the devotional, how I had to take a flight for the first time by myself, a
Mm,
flight to meet my best friend on a trip she had booked for me. So I could not turn it down because she had already paid for the ticket.
yeah.
And once I got to my layover, I was so overwhelmed. I had to a layover in Atlanta, which is, the busiest airport in the US.
Yes.
And I was so afraid, like, oh my goodness, I don't want to get off of this first leg of the flight, let alone have to navigate through the entire Atlanta airport to get to the second leg of it.
Y-
And that's when it hit me that even if I didn't go off of my flight, then all of my bags would have gone without me.
Ooh.
Everything that I needed would have made it to Miami with or without me. And
Hmm.
so I like to talk about that because you might be feeling like, oh, I'm uncomfortable right now. I don't want to take the next step, but everything that God promised you could very well just be waiting on the other side of that next step.
Ooh, wee, that is good. So I'm in a hurry to get my copy. I'm gonna say that now, because listen. This book is telling us what some of us already know, telling us what we need to do. And so, but it's inspired by your stories. This is the thing. This is what makes it so personal, so powerful. Is we're inspired by your stories. You have totally different stories than I do. Of course, we're coming home to sometimes the same messages, some that we have even shared with others, some that's been shared with us. Get up, get to moving. And even as you
Yes.
heard, listen, it's gonna what God has prepared for you is gonna be there, whether you get there or not. You just got to get up and get there. So let me ask you this: what was your favorite chapter? We asked about the most difficult. What would you say was your most favorite part of putting this devotional together?
I would say my favorite part was probably seeing myself in a different light and realizing that God really does know best. Because at the start of the journey, when they gave me the word count, I was like, oh my God, I can't do that because I've
Yeah.
never written that many words before. I've never done that. And seeing that I was able to work through it and get to the other side, like that's another story, that's another testimony that
Mhm.
I did not see how it was going to be possible in the beginning. But after pushing through it and countless prayers, and worship sessions at my dining room table, I
Yeah.
was able to put everything together. And the story, even still, I have had to read this devotional dozens of times
Yeah.
before it's even made its way out to the world. But it in some seasons where, I was just overwhelmed, I would pick up this devotional myself and read it. And the fact that it also blessed me and I wrote it is some parts of it were like, man, it felt like I didn't write this, God wrote this, and those were the words that I needed in some tough seasons as well. So that is what I am most, proud about for this.
Wow. Well, May 12th, May 12th, this book
Yes.
releases. All of this work, it comes to a head when the world is able to get their hands on it. I'm telling you, I'm going to get in line because I still like to read paperback, or hard copy, however it comes. I still want to put my hands on it and flip through the pages of it, make notes in there, mark it all up, highlight, and do all of that good kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to experiencing this book from dreams to drive, from dreams to drive. I'm gonna keep saying that, from dreams to drive, as you have been led by the Lord to give this devotional to us. How many pages is this? How many days are we going on this journey with you?
It is roughly 31 days.
Okay.
I think it might be more than that. It might be 30. Let me see. 33 days. It is
33.
33 full devotionals
I like
in
that number.
here. And then there are 4 parts. So it is broken down into 4 parts. So if you want to work on one part, take a little break, come to
Yeah.
part two, take a little break, and so on. But again, there are intros to each part. There is an outro where we're pausing and reflecting on everything. There are intentional questions in here to help you just self-reflect and figure out like how you can make changes on your end. Like how can you apply these things to your life? So it is jam-packed from start to finish.
Oh, I love it. So listen, you've got your plan. This is going to take you through the rest of the year. You've got sections. You've got time. You heard the time to do the work, reflect, and do all of that stuff. I got to thank God for you, for following His leading and answering His call when He says, "I just want your voice." Wow, 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 wow. From dreams to drive, we're getting to the point to where God is going to elevate your voice as you read this book and even after you read this book. Thank you so much for your time today, being with us, Taneshia Yerby. I'm going to give you, as we close, I'm going to give you the last word to speak to our readers, our viewers, and your readers.
Yeah, I would say that use this devotional as just a testimony to show you what is possible when you just follow God's lead. And it's not always going to be easy. After you identify the gifts, there's a whole nother thing to tackle there, how to figure out how to, use them in the world. But I want you to know that, speaking from experience, it is possible. It might be uncomfortable, but there is absolutely nothing that you cannot do when you partner with God and you let him lead.